All right, the last of our three-part videos on the mediant chords. We've looked at the Mi 5-3 chord, which is a tonic chord. Neat substitute for the Mi 6-3, has this really minor end-of-the-world type sound to it. Used all the time in the Leaping Romanesca. We've seen the Sol 6-3, which is a substitute for the Sol 5-3. It's the dominant 13th chord, and it has that neat color with that Mi-Do ending, used in, like I said, 19th century Russian music, jazz music, and so on. And now we're going to go switch from the major mode to the minor mode, and we're going to take a look at the mediant in minor, which is to say Mi 5-3. Let's go to the whiteboard. So as I said, in minor, we are talking about the Mi 5-3. Upper third, of course, is Sol. Upper fifth, we're going to have to go with Te, because Mi to Te is a perfect fifth. Mi to Te would be an augmented fifth. That's a weird interval. We're never going to use that interval. It's just a weird interval. It doesn't function. You just because something can theoretically exist doesn't mean it gets used. So don't do that. Mi 5-3, however, is extremely common. And the reason for this, let's go to C minor. And we'll just put in the notes, we'll compare it to the Do 5-3. Do, Mi, Sol. We'll compare it to the Mi 6-3, Mi, Sol, Do. So of course, C, E flat, G. I'll use an E flat here, G, C, and then this would be E flat, G, and B flat. Now if you recognized that this is an E flat major chord, and this is a C minor chord. Oh, I'm writing behind my head. I've got to remember my edge is right there of the black pen. Just shift that over a little bit. So if you recognize that this is an E flat major and this is a C minor, then you recognize they have the same key signature. This is what we refer to as the relative relationship. And so this is an important thing to keep in mind, and it's why this chord is actually a little bit more common in minor than it is to use the mediant in major. And that is, in major, the 1 and 3 relationship is our Leitonwechsel that we talked about a couple of times ago. And the Leitonwechsel, not as common of a chord relationship as we talk about parallel and relative all the time. It's a neat color, but it doesn't start getting used a lot really until the 19th century. On the other hand, the minor one and its major mediant have the relative relationship. And this is extremely common. I mean, all the time. If you don't raise your leading tone in minor, you don't have that T-Do, that Te is going to naturally pull you into the relative major. It's really easy to modulate in minor from the minor to the relative major. You just stop using T and let the Te take you to the Mi, Sol, Te. Let's grab a little piece of music so we can hear that relative major, the mediant in the minor key, in context. So let's go here and import in our PDF. We're going to turn to Karpinski, melody number 967. I already scanned that with my phone here, so we're just going to insert it in. And this is an excerpt from Wagner's Parsifal. It's Fortis's Prayer. All right, so let's find a key. Nice low A. I don't know where my A is exactly, but we'll just grab something that feels low in my range. It's good enough for a video. Do, do, ti, do, re, me, fa, sol, fa, me, re, do. And you can see this outline. Do, me, sol, do, me, re, do. Just emphasizing that tonic area here. But in this moment, notice that the Do, Te, Sol, Me. Fa, Sol, Te, Fa, Sol, passing tones, Te, Sol, Me, Sol, Te, Sol. It goes to that mediant, that Mi, Sol, Te chord. And watch what happens when we sing it. Do, re, do, Mi, Sol, do, mi, te, sol, me. Did you hear that? Te, sol, me. Doesn't that sound a lot like sol, mi, do? Did you hear how easily we went into the relative major and suddenly we're no longer actually in A minor? It starts sounding more like we're in C major. Sol, mi, do, re, mi, sol, fa, mi. It just pulls so easily into the relative major, and that's the mediant chord. Now I'm going to sing it keeping the solfege syllables, not modulating, not changing my do, but keeping my do. It's the same beginning, and I'll be singing it with the te, sol, me. You'll hear how major that sounds. I've got to reestablish my key. Sol, re, sol, fa, me, re, do. I really modulated that major key. I had to let go of it. Do, re, do, me, sol, do, me, re, do, te, sol, me, fa, sol, te, le, sol. You hear it. It sounds very much like we're in the relative major. And so that me, sol, te in minor, the me 5-3, is used a lot, and that relationship where we position that where I want it, where we modulate to the relative major, extremely common in minor, happens very easily. You won't find as often in minor, you won't see the sol 6-3 substitute for sol 5-3 in minor a lot. Sol 6-3. We talked about that in our second video in major, but it doesn't make as much sense in minor because we like sol ti re. If I go here, if I go sol ti me, I've got that diminished fourth there. It's very crunchy. This chord exists, but it's very pungent. You won't find it very often. And this acts as the substitute for sol 5-3. So I could still talk about the 5, flat 13 in minor. What you won't see is you won't see our more typical sol te me. You won't really see that substituting. For the sol 5-3. And the reason is for the authentic function, I really in minor, I really want that T. That T is so key to that sound. Talk about classical music in that context. Actually, we have te authentics all the time in pop and jazz. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but we'll get there eventually. But for now, you know, we don't really use the sol 6-3 a lot in this. And when we do, you usually have found that it modulates, that you have modulated. And so the me 5-3 will have become a do 5-3 in the relative major. And you won't really be thinking of that as being a sol 6-3. You'll be thinking of it as being a mi 6-3 in the relative major. So if you ever see that sol te me, you've probably modulated. We'll talk about modulation next year, of course, but keep an eye out for that. So, me sol te, common in minor, especially with the me and the bass, acts as the relative major. It's very easy to go to the relative major. You just stop using T, and it kind of takes care of itself with that te. So there's your mediant in a minor key.